The Enterprise is heading to Starbase 6 for some much-needed rest and relaxation. Vulcan has not been conquered within its collective memory, and the crew of the Enterprise acts as an antibody attacking an invading germ. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton and Walter Koenig.
Hello.
Hi.
Guess which one's which? My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 19, The Immunity 18. The Immunity Syndrome, written by Robert Sabaroff, directed by, stop me if you've heard this one before, Joseph Pevney. This was January 19th. There's that 19 I saw, 1968. Where were you? And how you guys doing today?
Wow, 1968. Doing great. Awesome.
Actually, kind of, I guess we know where Walter was.
Yes.
Everybody, please.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was fairly evident in the episode.
And I can't wait to talk about it. Everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. And visit us at patreon.com/the7th-rule to support the show, become part of the team. By the way, a couple cool charities that Walter loves. What is it? The St. Jude's Hospital. And what is the
American Indian College Fund?
That's the other one, yeah. So those two are very important and near and dear to Walter's heart. So we definitely try to support that as much as possible, and you should too. And on with the show. Here we go. Walter,
Love it.
what do you remember of filming this episode? I know it was quite some time ago, but do you remember any part of it when you were watching it? Did it bring back any old memories?
I cannot say that I brought back specific memories. I did have this sense that I was more integrated into the episode than I have been on several other occasions. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of close-ups, and several of those were made into 8x10s. And when I go to conventions...
you recognize those, huh?
I recognize those 8x10s as having been part of what I was doing on this episode.
Cool.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. You were heavily featured, and actually, interestingly enough, Walter, there was a line in this episode that stood out to me. And that was when Kirk goes through the list of people that he wants to give commendations to in case you guys all pass away.
Right.
And your name is on that list along with Uhura. And I noticed that, Sulu was not on that list.
I noticed that very strongly too. I was like, whoa, why not mention Sulu?
Because he wasn't in the episode.
But he mentioned Kyle. Remember Transporter Chief Kyle? More on him. But Walter, don't you think that maybe he should have?
Yeah, he probably, yeah. Well, there are a lot of things, little things like that we could, labor over. But, from time to time, there are inconsistencies. I mean, there are times when they took a bunch of standard shots from behind me, behind the navigator and the helms, and they used that as library footage whenever they needed to insert that into an episode, and you didn't really know who it was because it was from behind. So and occasionally, in fact, it wasn't me or it wasn't George. It was an extra who they just had sitting there. In this case, the times that they use that library footage, it was indeed me. So that was something. And the other person in the two-shot was not recognizable. It was just the back of his head. And it could have been Kyle, but I don't think so. And it's interesting having Kyle sitting in the helm's position because how many times did that happen? I don't think very often.
Yeah, he was the transporter chief before that. But Walter, I just want to add that I did that once before in a sci-fi series myself, but I was not in the library footage. They used somebody else's library footage when we're looking on the screen and we go like on screen, and then it shows the shot from behind us. And I was like, that's not my head. Who is that guy? Who is that guy? But then it cuts back to the face, and there I am. I'm like, that was not me, man. I know that was not me.
Yeah, it's a cheat, camera cheat that they're allowed to get away with, because sometimes they don't cover that footage for the shot because they're trying to get as much done and move forward. So reverse angles to the screen, I would assume, are stuff they would say, okay, just go to stock for that. But I really was pointing out the fact that I thought it was special for Kirk to name out that list of people that meant the most to him on that ship, and that your name was on that list of special people, that you had endeared yourself up to this point. Now we're 18 episodes into season 2, and you are now officially on his, top list of personnel. So I just think that I like that as far as writing is concerned. I think it makes your character look good, and it also makes the captain look admirable for acknowledging your service.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said as far as the writing was concerned, because that was obviously the responsibility of the writer, and we should. If congratulations are in order, then certainly it goes to the writer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Robert Sabaroff, I thought, did a fantastic job writing this episode. I thought there were lines that stood out to me where I was writing down a lot of lines. I don't know, Ryan, if you had this same thing with this episode, but I wrote down a lot of lines. And usually when that happens, it's because the writing is good. I don't write down lines if there's no good writing. I'll write my own thoughts. I'll draw pictures. If the writing's not that good. But if the writing's good, I'm writing your lines down because they're impactful to me.
I only took one note, and my note was plot dictates character. In this case,
yes,
everybody did a sterling job because the story was so tight, and everybody came out well. I mean, it was an ensemble performance. This is as close to an ensemble performance as I think Star Trek had. So I was very pleased for all of us. I thought it was well done.
Yeah. When you said you had only written one note, I thought it was going to be a C sharp. I'm glad to be wrong about that.
What's that? I missed that.
Never mind. It's probably best that you missed it.
That's a Ryan joke. That's all.
Yeah. So, Walter, let's talk about, kind of what we were starting off with, which was you were used well in this episode. And, as you said, plot dictates character, because they kind of just put you in anything. You need a backup engineer, there's Walter. Right. You need a backup helmsman, there's Walter. You need a backup security guy, there's Walter. Now, and you're also now the backup Spock. And there's
science
a backup
officer. Yeah.
Right. And there's
I was the backup Spock.
Yeah,
I was definitely
you backed up Spock, and then somebody else backed you up. So now you're moving up in the world, because your position needs to be replaced by somebody.
In the original Bible for the show, I think Chekhov was supposed to be in line to become a science officer. I think I read that somewhere in the Bible, that he was training for the science department. So this was the one place where they actually did that. They actually worked that part.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned, Walter, Lieutenant Kyle, right? This guy that we've seen now several episodes.
Yeah. And
I don't think I've ever met him, nor do I know his real name. Ryan, maybe you can bring it up for us.
Yeah, it was, we've mentioned John Winston, like the cigarette.
He's Australian, I think. Wasn't he Australian?
I think so.
Yeah.
What do you remember about him? Do you remember him ever doing conventions or seeing him at conventions? Or
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, Mark Letter and I did several plays together. We did one called The Boys in Autumn, and John saw it, and he immediately felt that he mentioned somebody else, I can't remember who it was, could take that play on the road too. You know, I said, absolutely. And to myself, I said, never. Never. Yeah, but he was a pleasant chap. He was also in charge of the transporter room on a few occasions, I believe.
Right. He started off as a transporter chief Kyle. And if you'll recall, Sirach in Strange New Worlds, season 1, we had a transporter chief, Kyle, who was, clearly his counterpart, but was he killed? No, he wasn't killed, but he just got transferred or something, and then they got somebody else for season 2, and then kind of nobody in season 3. But there was a transporter chief, Kyle, in the first season of Strange New Worlds, which is really cool. So John Winston here, born 1927, passed away in 2019 when he was 91 on September 19th, 2019. Everybody knows that's Talk Like a Pirate Day. September 19th is Talk Like a Pirate Day. So
what?
Kind of like that.
Where? Who?
Yeah, there's a day for everything.
Talk like
R.I.P. Lieutenant Kyle. I was happy to see him and you get some camera time.
Totally.
Actually, you mentioned the fact that the whole crew got some real chance to be a part of the storyline. I thought Uhura did a great job, just having meat on the bone. And you were fantastic as well. There was a moment there, you did a little thing that I never see people do. And it was the first time I think I've really paid attention to this, Walter. It was in your performance. But McCoy comes around, he comes to the bridge, he's giving everybody the hypo spray kind of stimulant. And he comes up to you and shoots you in the arm. And you did something that I felt was very natural. And you did one of these kind of like shoulder, like a shoulder shake type of move, which I would do if I got a shot, right? It's like if you get a needle shot, you kind of rub it off a little bit and you kind of shake off and I thought that was a natural move. It had nothing to do with dialogue because I was now looking at everybody else receiving their spray. And I was saying, let's see how they act. And Kyle, when he got his, did nothing.
He did like a little something, but Walter did like a full backstroke. You know what I mean? Like he really sold it.
He did one of these kind of like a shoulder move, and I really liked it. I was like, oh, that's why he gets promoted.
Do you remember that, Walter?
No.
Oh yeah, not at all.
But now it all fits together now. No wonder I became such an enormous success on Star Trek.
Well, yeah. Just to close out on our buddy Lieutenant Kyle, John Winston, he was in 11 episodes. We have looked him up before. He was also in 1 or 2 of the movies, but he was in 11 episodes. This is his penultimate episode. So it's his second to last one. Then the last one is in the 3rd season. So this is pretty much it for Lieutenant Kyle, a guy that it seems like they could have and should have done more with. Like he was there. He was there for almost a dozen episodes. He was a transporter chief. He was at the helm. Like he did a lot of stuff. He had a name. He was recognizable. I wish they would have done a little bit more, but they could have done more with Walter and George and Uhura too, honestly, and Nichelle. So I think that's one thing. I saw a quote where someone was saying that they wish
he
they
is
had
the
done more with them.
progenitor to Chief O'Brien and future transporter chiefs that we would eventually have. So he does set the kind of first character of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Back to this episode in the dialogue. Robert, there were moments that I really loved, and I thought they were played out through Kirk and Shatner's performance. For example, there was a decision that he had to face with Spock and McCoy both volunteering themselves for the mission. And he now is, both of them want it more than the other. And it's basically a suicide mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the moment there that was scripted for Kirk, where he walks through this emotional, tug of war that he has with who to basically send off on this suicide mission. The line was, "Which of my friends will I condemn to death?" And I thought that was poetic and kind of it raised the stakes of what we were facing. It was like this is a life or death decision. So there's always that to me is good writing. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I like that moment. I thought the scene was performed well as well.
I think a moment should be, I think there should be an acknowledgement of Joe Pevney, the director. Joe gave me my first lead on television. Well, not my first lead, but a very important part on a Hitchcock show. And I've always felt very warmly towards him. I noticed that everybody was into what was happening. I mean, you could see that Spock was weakening, that Dr. McCoy was weakening, and the secondary characters. He made sure that we were all aware that we were on the road to oblivion or something. So that made the whole thing consistent and made me feel like we were all engaged in the same situation.
Yeah, and in that moment where Kirk was choosing between Spock and Bones, I wrote in my notes, of course he's gonna pick Spock. He picks Spock every time. I've never once heard of Kirk saying, Bones, this is your mission. The suicide mission, the hero mission. The hero was always either Kirk or Spock, period, always. That's how I remember, at least. And then when Kirk said,
I'm sorry,
Bones, I have to apologize, or something like that, I was like, oh, and I started to delete mine. I was like, oh, I guess I was wrong. And then he said, and then he flipped. I was like, okay, see, now I had to retype it that I was right. It's so much work. But I realized it was so obvious, and I could be wrong on this. Everybody in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like the hero, the suicide mission, the life or death, whatever, was always Kirk and or Spock, but it was never Bones. I've never heard of it being Bones once.
Bones was mortal.
Mm-hmm.
Bones was human. And you needed the greatest conflict and the greatest tension is when you have them two opposing forces of equal strength. So you have to have somebody like Kirk or Spock who are better than the rest of us, or more not as vulnerable as the rest of us. In any case, that's where the greatest drama is. That's where the greatest friction is.
Yeah. And speaking of the friction, that's also was in the dialogue as well, when you had the back and forth between Spock and McCoy, and that back and forth between I'm a Vulcan and we're superior. What is it? Superior capability or something to that effect. And of course, Bones comes back with his own comebacks, and I really liked the back and forth. And I thought, for example, a beautifully written moment was when Bones was seeing Spock off, and Spock says, "Well, what can I do for you?" or something to that effect. And he says, "You could wish me good luck." I think Spock says that to Bones. He says, "You could wish me good luck." And he didn't really wish him the good luck to his face. He waited till he was gone,
right,
and said it behind him. Right. That's good scripting. That's good writing for me, because
you're right.
Because
you're right.
You know what I mean? It means he loves him. He's being a curmudgeon and grumpy and sour on the exterior, But deep down, he loves Spock, and Spock, vice versa, loves McCoy. They have a deep, kinsmanship, a connection with each other. And I thought that's how you write it. You write it in a way where he doesn't say to him "good luck" to his face and show that he loves him this much. Otherwise, that play doesn't work.
And to DeForest's credit, you can't minimize the contribution he is making, because we know that, even though he's grumpy and sour, as you say, we know that he cares for it, and that's DeForest's contribution to the role. It's partly that.
Yes, and I think that was beautifully done. The tone was great, and it reminded me of the kind of friendship we see later on when we get to Deep Space Nine, which is a friendship between Quark and Odo.
Yeah.
And I feel like that Quark and Odo love-hate relationship, where they like to pick on each other, but they really love each other, but they won't say it to each other's face.
Mm-hmm.
That is, later on down the line, you'll see it in Quark and Odo's relationship.
Also, Walter popped out for a second, it looks like. Also, similar types of characters where Odo and Spock are like by the book, the straight man, like they follow all the rules. And Quark and Bones are more like, bend the rules, make some jokes, do some shady dealings, whatever, no big deal. Things like that. But that's an interesting thought. I don't know where Walter went, but we're almost done with this segment. So we'll finish this segment out.
Yeah, and so, like, to piggyback off of what you said too, the scene where he watches Spock walk away and get into the shuttlecraft, and then eventually it cuts back to him and he says, "Good luck, Spock," or whatever. That reminded me of the scene where Quark says, "That man loves me. It's written all over his back." You know what I mean?
That was so good. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, because it reminded me of that moment for some reason, because it's like they won't say it to each other's face. Basically, that's where it comes down to. It's like two people that really care about each other, that got each other's back, but they feel like if they say it out loud, it might, it might jinx it or something. So they always kind of wait till they're not around each other to say it. But the jabbing, the back and forth between them is one of the things I really enjoyed in this episode. Normally, I don't like the comedy that much in these serious episodes, but I did like the comedy. Like, for example, when Spock says, "Dr. McCoy, you would not have survived."
Yes. He just says, like, especially because that was an unnecessary thing. So, Spock tries to hide it, but he's doing a jab. He's not just, he would say, "I am merely informing the doctor that it was the correct call to make," or the correct decision. No, you didn't need to say that. You were being like, you're like, well, look who survived something that you wouldn't have. Sorry about all that.
and then McCoy's comeback was like, again, like, like he wouldn't accept that. So it's like, yeah, don't bet on that.
Yeah. He's like, no, yes, I would. Or, yeah, you're right. It was something like, don't bet on that. I was like, come on, no, you wouldn't have. You would have. That Spock shook on the floor for 4 to 5 seconds. You would not have.
Yeah, that was a heavy camera shake.
Yeah. Oh, that's what he says. He says, "Want to bet?" Oh. Okay. Yeah. Easy, doctor. Everybody knows you're tough. Relax, doctor. Anyway. All right. Well, let's take our break and see where Walter went. And we will come right back on The Seventh Rule. Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton, and I bet Walter Koenig. Walter's having technical difficulties. He may be hopping back in a moment, but as Walter once said, the show must go on. Here are the trivioids of the week. And they go a little something like this. The Enterprise is heading to Starbase 6 for some much-needed R&R. 400 Vulcans died aboard the Intrepid. The Gamma 7A system is dead. half the people of the Enterprise just fainted. Vulcan has not been conquered within its collective memory, and the crew of the Enterprise acts as an antibody attacking an invading germ. Okay, so the fainting was something. I was hoping to talk with Walter about this. Hopefully he'll hop
What
on.
do you say it like that? The fainting was something.
It was a thing. It was a thing. It was an element to the story. But
you didn't buy it?
Well, the stunts were fun, is how I would put it. In fact, I wanted to talk to Walter about it because I thought that Walter did the best stunts, because at one point he flew out of his chair onto the floor, then somehow flew back into his chair, and then flew out of his chair again. I was like,
again.
That's pretty.
He
And of
was,
course,
like I said, he was doing the best, for me, non-verbal body language acting in this. Like I said, irrespective of the lines, there were several times. There was that moment there where Chekhov was flung off of the helm, and then he got back in his seat and got flung again. There was that time. Then also on the feint, he had the most elaborate fainting motion action of falling onto the panel, right? So there were moments there I thought, like I said, he was doing really well, and just almost in his body language when he got the hypo spray, he made a reaction to it, that's kind of stung a little bit. Just little things like that. I feel like it means you're in the script, you're in the moment. He was taking little cues and showing us that he's making this world real for him. And I thought that he did that in body language a lot, irrespective of the words.
Yeah, and there's very few things that can take me out of something than watching people not commit, right? And when you're seeing director says, "All right, everybody, now shake," and you see 5 people really shaking and 2 just kind of going through the motions, you're like, why is this person flying all over the place and this person is not? And I'm not going to name names, but I have seen it from certain people, and I'm always very confused by it, because it's kind of like, if the big guy is shaking around a ton and somebody of a smaller stature is not shaking around very much, that's actually the opposite of what it should be. The big, strong Worf type would be able to hang on a little more tightly, and maybe somebody that's not like a big, burly security officer would get thrown around a bit more. But anyway, so I was happy to see when Walter was flying all over the place. And Shatner kind of did some things. Scotty did a bit for us too. The extras, kind of hit and miss. Although,
Shatner did the least shaking, actually. He did a little chair wiggle.
Yeah, but he also did like the saving. And I'm like, can we just, this is so 60s, where it's like, he saves the day. He's kind of tough. He's kind of a dick to his subordinates, but they're not really a dick back. He was kind of shady, seedy to that one girl at the end, where he's like, "Oh, beautiful," something or other. I was like, dude, you're the captain. Put it away, Jesus. And then when like Uhura, so Kirk,
he was on stimulants to his defense.
That is a very good point. That is a very good point. A lot
of stimulants,
and he needed to wait for that stuff to settle. That's a good. Okay, all right, I can accept that. I can accept that. He's like, man, I got a headache. And then,
He's like, how many Viagra did you give me, Bones?
Yeah, they don't call me Bones for nothing. You got 120 bones right now going on.
But
at ease, everybody. At ease.
Can't, Captain. I can't. It's stimulants.
No. All right.
No, Spock did a lot of shaking too in that little runabout that he was in. He did some, like you said, a good 40 seconds worth of shaking,
rolling around.
Yeah.
But it
was good though. I mean, unbelievable.
Yes, some of those things were pretty like, oh, I'm just gonna I don't know, but I never know what the direction is, and I never know if they just can't afford stunt people or if the actors are like, I can do it. But anyway, that notwithstanding, there was a weird and interesting video effect when people were shaking around to that sound was effective to me because I found myself going like, wow, that's weird, and
that sound was really effective as far as being annoying and paralyzing to some degree because I was slightly paralyzed by it. I kept imagining Uhura. I was like, yeah, she has like a microphone in her ear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the worst effect.
I wanted to talk to whoever the Dan Curry counterpart is for the original series and be like, how did you make the space amoeba? How did you do that weird sound? What about that weird visual when people are shaking? Like, I want to know like how all those effects happened because it's something weird and creative from the 60s. Also, the amoeba looked like it had gotten
an upgrade. It got a digital upgrade.
Because I was like, there's no way. There's just
no. It was 3D. They had a 3D kind of tonality to it as far as the special effects. I knew for a fact that was not done in the 60s or late 60s. That was modern day revamped special effects for that amoeba. But there were other things that, like, just on the set design aspect that I did like as far as panels and just instrumentation. It did look good, but that amoeba for sure is a new thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so I'm looking right now for the old one. It looks like this is what the old one looked like. Honestly, it looked like Greenland to me. It just looked like the country of Greenland. Just kind of on its side. Greenland is like this, and then like down here would be their capital, Nuuk. But like it just looks like Greenland. So that's the old version. To me, it looks
like a guy swallowing a fish.
Huh.
Do you see that
with the profile? With the tail hanging out. Yeah. So now here's the new version. Or maybe, actually, it could be Riker making kissy faces. So this is the new version. He's going.
Yeah, Riker's blowing a kiss to Gamma 6.
Oh, also, there was a moment that lives in infamy. Let me see if I can find it. There's this GIF that's going around on the internet. It's been going around forever where Bones goes like this. He gives like a nod. And then Kirk goes back. And they go back and forth. And that came from this episode. And I don't remember what he said, but anyway, Bones said something, and then he did the little nod, and then Kirk did it back, and I realized, oh man, that's where they got the GIF from. And
it must be the moment there where he says, "Damn it, don't be so smart, Spock. You forgot to do the something test," and then Kirk kind of gets he likes Spock getting his balls busted by. Was that the moment?
It was when he said, it was right around then he said, Bones said, "Shut up, Spock, we're rescuing you." And he went,
yeah.
And so there was that. That was cool. If I could find.
And then Spock's response is, "Whoa, thank you, Captain McCoy." He called him Captain.
Yeah, a little sarcasm from the Vulcan all of a sudden. Is that what I caught?
Exactly.
I think I did. I think I caught a little sarcasm from that guy.
Yeah.
Also, wait, let me see. Is that him? No. Also, another thing I wanted to point out is I wanted to ask Walter about his stunts. So at one point, Spock said shields will only last 47 minutes. I'm like, I wonder if that's the first 47 that showed up. Also, there was an interesting quote from Spock who said
47. Because there's a TV show called The First 48, right? A crime investigation show. Yeah.
I don't know that
Based on the 48 hours after a crime, after a major homicide or something. You have 48 hours to essentially try to catch the criminal. Otherwise, the potential chances go down by 50%. So they have a show called The First 48.
Yeah, I've heard about that term. I didn't know there was a show called that. That's cool. Not the contiguous 48. There was a line that Spock said that was interesting. He said, "The area of penetration will no doubt be sensitive."
Okay.
He said the area of
What did he?
penetration will no doubt be sensitive. I wonder if that's going to be Chris McGee's quote of the episode.
Well, I heard a quote that said the hangar deck is pressurizing. Hangar deck pressurizing.
You're like, so, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's Riker's pickup line.
Ain't that the truth? Also, there was a moment. There were a lot of funny things in this episode because I mean, the story was solid. The story, there's nothing really to change or take away or add to the story. But there are a lot of other things here and there, like in the sick bay, we had a Nurse Chapel sighting, which was great. I love seeing her there. I love it when we get Nurse Chapel. I love it when we get Lieutenant Kyle. I just like it when we get these extra people, you know? And she was there talking with Bones. They were on either side of a hospital bed. And a lady walks in with like a tray and like the hypo spray on it. She walks over to Nurse Chapel. Nurse Chapel grabs it and hands it to Bones. And I was like, why didn't the lady just go give it to Bones? Like, it was just it was like, she walked up, I'm like, that's such a weird procedure. Like, she walked up, she grabs it and hands it to him. It's just, I guess, to give that lady something to do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's just weird blocking, but and you would think that Nurse Chapel, being the head nurse there, could be able to administer a hypo spray. It doesn't seem like something you need a doctor to do, right? It's like, so that's just blocking and staging. But I will say that favorite moment of this episode, and this actually reminded me, the way it was written reminded me of the movie where Spock dies.
Wrath of Khan, yeah.
The Wrath of Khan, where he's in that contaminated chamber. So he says something where he says, it's where he thinks he's going to die. And that's why it reminded me of the moment, because he thinks he's going to die in this particular moment. So he's leaving a log for Starfleet to recover, you know. And in that log, he says, I bequeath my highest commendation and testimonial to the captain, officers, and crew of the Enterprise, the finest starship in the fleet.
See, he does love them.
I know, and that was a beautiful line. And subsequently, the way it was written and directed, they cut from that to Kirk essentially saying the same thing, right? So here you have the two stars of your show, the two leads of your show, both showing the kind of selflessness, heroism, acknowledgement of their peers. You know, just I thought it's beautiful writing for both of them to say, "Hey, I want to make sure that these people get acknowledged for their sacrifices, for their commitment, for their bravery, for their excellence on board the ship." And in Spock's case, for his courage to risk his life in that mission. So I thought that's beautiful writing. If I was a military person, if I was in the military, that would be the kind of sentiment that I would want to see my leadership have, as well as the kind of sentiment I would want to exude as a soldier. So I love that.
Yeah, that's cool. Absolutely. And speaking of acknowledgments, it's time for today's home run of the episode. Oh, Walter's joining us just in time for the home run of the episode.
All right.
What a deal. Let's see how this works. All right, Walter, you're here. We're going to have you add your video. We're going to ask you to unmute. Let's see what happens. And in the meantime, Sirach, who gets the home run of today's episode?
Okay. I think that
Hey, Walter.
the whole,
We're just going over the home run of today's episode, Walter.
yeah.
Say that again.
We've got the home run of today's episode going right now. So Walter Sirach is telling us who he thinks got the home run of today's episode.
Oh, I think I thought about this, and I think it's the entire cast.
Wow.
Wow.
I think, as I said at the very top, plot dictates character, and in this case, everybody came together. I don't mean that as a general rule, but in this case, because the story was strong and it was direct and had a good, powerful thrust to it, and everybody contributed. And I would say this was a group effort.
Mm-hmm. Sound like Sir Mix-a-Lot for a second there. Good stuff. What about yourself, Sirach? Who gets the home run of today's episode?
This is not an easy one for me, but because it's very well balanced and spread out as far as the blame for the success of this episode. I think everybody contributed a good amount and did a good job. However, I would say the outstanding person on this episode would be the writer, Robert Sabarov.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
I love the writing. I just thought it was perfect. And the moment there where they had Spock kind of give out his, express his love for his crew and captain and starship, and when you have Kirk do the same thing and say, "Hey, I want to make sure we acknowledge Uhura and McCoy and everybody that he endears on this show." I thought that was especially exceptional, and I thought it shows the kind of leadership that you want to see from your superior officers on board the starship. So yeah, writing wise, Robert Sabarov did it for me on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Walter, actually, because I kept watching Chekhov. Every time he would move his shoulder, or when he was doing his own stunts and flying all over the place, and then flying back up into the chair and defying gravity, I just found him to be really interesting. Now, I don't know if it's because Chekhov is in the foreground and everybody else is kind of back there, but my eye, or if I thought that I'd be talking to Walter about it afterwards, but either way, my eye was drawn to Chekhov throughout this episode. So home run of the episode goes to Walter Koenig. All right. And I know you're going to try to fight it, Walter, but we're out of time. So sorry.
Yeah, we're out of time. And I got a big question for everybody on the other side of this break here.
Cool.
On the free-for-all.
All right. Well, let's say a special thanks to all of our pals. And their names are Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Muller, Dr. Muhammad Nora, Anil O, Palat Joe Balsarati, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manosfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Chris Sternick Greg, Kay Wickstrom, Cassandra G, Chuck A, Chris Garris, Linda Page, and of course, Jason M. Oken. I just did that for Walter because he put on his headphones. All right. We'll be right back, everybody. Stick around for the free-for-all on the 7th Rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Sirach Lofton and Walter Koenig. This is the free-for-all with Melissa L. Lungo. Jason M. Oken as well. He's got a middle name.
Hi, everybody.
Carrie Schwent is the crafty bear. Mark Zutkoff has 3 pictures behind him, kind of 4, I guess. Chris Garris likes titles behind him.
Hey.
TJ Jackson Bay is on the bridge of the Enterprise. No bloody A, B, C, or D. Chuck A says, what's wrong with A's? And Chris McGee is the Dark Lord. All right. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I got this around a 7.5.
Interesting theory. Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know what it is on IMDb?
7.0.
7.2.
7.1.
7.8.
Go 6.9, sure.
You would. All right. The
6 to
answer, of course, and Melissa can check my work, is that sound you heard means somebody hit it right on the head. It's Sirach Lofton 7.5. Look at this.
Wow.
Ringer. We got a
Wow.
ringer. Any non-appearance mentions? No, the only non-appearance mention that could have worked was when Kirk named everybody and their grandma for commendations except for Sulu. That would have been a nice non-appearance, but that didn't happen.
He didn't name Cowell either.
Yeah, he was calling Kyle kind of Kyle, something weird like that. Some kinds of or some sorts of Chris McGee.
There was a lot.
I heard, two or three of them, but spoken by in two lines, actually. First, Spock speculating on that area of darkness before they entered it would seem to be some form of energy, but nothing our sensors can identify. Then later, Kirk doing pretty much the same thing after they penetrated that area of darkness says, maybe it's a shield of some kind, and then some form of protection or something else, for something else.
Right.
Ryan,
A good double. Yes, sir.
are you going to ask if, or ask what number we give this? What average?
Yeah, we just did. What do you give it, Walter?
I give it an 8.
Nice. Very good. Mark
Close.
Zetkoff agrees with you.
Yeah.
All right. Melissa Longo, will you please get us started off by telling us what you thought of this episode?
400 Vulcans get eaten by a giant amoeba. Just kidding. There's a joke in there. It's like a joke in there. 400 Vulcans getting eaten by a giant amoeba. Anyway, I think it's refreshing anytime we get an episode where it takes the focus off the main three characters and focuses on the entire crew working together. I love seeing that. I love seeing the input that Chekhov has. I love seeing the input that Uhura has and Scotty has. And I like the input that Lieutenant Kyle had. Or was he Lieutenant Kyle?
Yeah.
Anyway, Kyle had. I enjoyed that. Uhura drew my focus several times, particularly when she fainted and then got back, was helped back into her chair. But she was doing some amazing things where she was obviously fatigued and feeling the stress of whatever was affecting them. But then she would straighten up to make sure that the captain knew that she was still able to work and do her job. I really liked that. I enjoyed the confrontation between Spock and Bones, and Spock putting Bones in his place, saying, not giving him a pass for Bones trying to excuse his own lack of compassion when he learned that these Vulcans had lost his life. He was trying to excuse that and saying, well, why would you want me to suffer that way? And Spock saying, basically, maybe humans wouldn't have shed so much blood if you did experience that loss as deeply. And I found in this episode, or came to a realization, that I really like Spock's character because he can approach life and with a different perspective, because he is half Vulcan and half human. He doesn't come from it just from the human perspective or just from the Vulcan perspective. He comes from it with a fresh view of things, and offers not a dispassionate perspective, but a new take on things that either a Vulcan or a human might not. Yeah, and there was something else I was going to say, and I can't remember, so maybe I'll remember it for things left unsaid. But that's what I got for now.
Great stuff, as always, Melissa Longo in the coolest shirt in the galaxy. All right, Jason M. Oken. Don't knock his shirt. It's pretty cool, too. We can't see it, but what do you think of this one?
I've always enjoyed it. I think, I was going to say it's a guilty pleasure. It's not a guilty pleasure because it's a wonderful episode. You can say that it may have, the script may have used a little bit of a polish, but that's just, nitpicking. I do enjoy it tremendously. I think it was directed very well by Joe Pevney. I mean, if you look at what's happening here and the origin of the script, I mean, basically, Robert Sabaroff was approached with basically a request to write a script with no guest stars, because they ran out of money for guest stars, but had the effects budget. And that's how it all started. And it's very difficult to write something like this that would sort of keep everybody's attention. And there were some rewrites involved and whatnot, to get this done. But I think, the way it was shot, and a lot of it is in reaction shots. There are a lot of reaction shots, and the way it was edited together actually works very well. And, Melissa said that certainly a lot of the characters have input in the episode, but I think at the heart, this is really a McCoy, Kirk, Spock episode. It shows that relationship in a wonderful way. And, if you want to see what Star Trek is about, this is one of the episodes you can certainly show and say, this is what Star Trek is about and how these characters interact. And, that makes it by itself enjoyable. And again, it's a bottle show, but it's a wonderful bottle show. And I think if you have not seen this in its original effects version, I recommend that you do, because I think even though the effects are remastered, I think the original ones do stand up, and they're wonderful, certainly for their time. There's a lot more to say here. This is Joe Pevney's last episode, and we can talk about why and whatnot and things left unsaid. But again, a lot of the things in this episode kind of stick out. Anything from the famous blooper reel. There are quite a few little bits from this one. There are quite a few memes, and Mark has a couple of them in the pictures behind him. So again, this is one of those episodes that withstood the test of time.
It does indeed. It does indeed. It's sort of classic. It's a classic science fiction structure. The peril, the jeopardy, the forceful way the story is told, and the participation of the crew. It was very involving, I thought, and it was sort of if you were going to. I felt this way about Star Trek too, as well. That if you were going to show somebody how to write a very sound, very cohesive story where the characters are well represented and the story evolves in a logical and natural way, this is the script you would show them. Immunity Syndrome, Star Trek 2, those are the scripts you would show them.
Wow. High praise. Good stuff. Thank you very much, Jason M. Oken. Sarat gives it a heart. Carrie Schwent is the crafty bear. She's wearing a very cool shirt that says, I got a piece of the action at Trek to Chicago. What'd you think of this one?
I liked it. It's not going to make my top 10 list of favorites, but I did enjoy it. Full confession, I caught my attention wandering in a couple of places. I am going to give this one a proper all of my attention rewatch again at some point, because there was quite a bit of it quite a bit of it I enjoyed, and I found myself at the beginning when McCoy takes Spock down to sickbay to check on him after his moment, wondering if one of the tests that he was going to conduct was a midichlorian test. Because I'm curious what his midichlorian count is. Because he had a very Obi-Wan Kenobi like moment at the beginning there, which made me smile. The two of them, their relationship is very very interesting to follow, and that bit near the, I think 2/3 of the way or so through the episode, when he finally says, wishes Spock good luck, but only after Spock is on the other side of the door headed to the that gave me a tiny bit of a tear prick, and probably will get a bigger one out of me the next time I watch the episode. But this also is the episode that gave birth to one of my favorite and probably more frequent use gifts when I'm responding to people, that of the nodding back and forth.
Yeah.
That gift just makes me smile, and it's fantastic. Whoever edited that together did a fantastic job with it. And there's the plot line with the ship getting attacked / devoured by like an entity was done a couple other times in on Star Trek Voyager, and I think I like those episodes a little bit more, but it's kind of fun having that, and I love how they created the effect for the Amoeba dude. Just that sort of technique of playing with colors and things. I do that a lot when I'm crafting, having fun, mixing different colors together and seeing how they're gonna interact with each other and whatever mold I'm pouring them into. So I had fun playing around with the different settings on my phone with the picture from Memory Alpha. So I did this whole fun little Andy Warhol thing here behind me. And it's no surprise that so many officers have so much accumulated shore leave time. It occurs to me because every time they try to go on shore leave, shenanigans happens. Almost every single time. So it's no wonder they have all this accumulated leave time taken up. And just one thing that occurs to me before I get to the haiku for the episode, but it made me wonder how similar the Amoeba dude and the crystalline entity from TNG, kind of similar methods, although the crystalline entity does kind of a case-by-case, one at a time sort of thing, and the Amoeba, just by virtue of its even bigger size. I'd love to see the two of them together just to get the sense of proportion between the two. The Amoeba dude is very, very pretty and looks very fish-like with that little black sort of iris eye thing, like right about here. Kind of looks like a slice of like a fish laying on a plate. But for the haiku of the episode, because TOS episodes I do haikus, not limericks, so that it will be shorter. So Ryan, don't be alarmed when it's only 3 lines. But this was sort of a musing on the shore leave thing, and so probably I'm guessing from Kirk's perspective. So we've got, we all need shore leave. Have to kill this creature first. Now we can relax.
Oh wow, only 3 lines. Okay. Just kidding. You weren't kidding. All right. Thank you very much, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. All right. Mark Zutkoff, what's up? What'd you think of this one?
I think this episode is great, but I'd like it even better if it hadn't come in the same season as the Doomsday Machine. This episode even uses some of the music from that show. There's an overall sense of unease and grimness throughout almost all of this episode. For instance, the scenes between Spock and McCoy. Rather than being playful banter as played, it's deadly serious, understandable given the subject matter, but McCoy is a bit more speciesist than usual regarding Vulcans. And some of it can be attributed to the crew being tired or being drained of their energy or both, but the attitude seems scripted to a greater degree than usual. I like the scene where Scott explains that things are working in reverse. So Kirk tells him to Nudge it into forward. Go ahead. When they decide to launch a shuttlecraft, the Kirk-Spock-McCoy dynamic is on a scientific level as opposed to pure logic versus emotion. Kirk's personal log is powerful when he says, "And which of my friends do I condemn to death?" The actors have to fall out of their chairs a lot in this episode, but watch Spock in the shuttlecraft. Nimoy rolls out of his chair rather carefully each time. When Spock kicks the entity to alert the crew that he's still alive, Kirk is thrilled, and there's a rather stretched grin from McCoy. Speaking of stretched, we get a full-on Shatner dialogue stretch when he says, "Antibodies," and pats McCoy on the cheek. In the teaser, we hear the voice of a Starbase commander. That actor is Robert C. Johnson, who was the voice on the tapes that self-destruct in 5 seconds on all 7 seasons of Mission Impossible, as well as the 1988-89 revival series. Number 47 watch, 47 minutes for the shields to last. And my home pun of the episode, took a while to come up with this one because it's such a serious episode, but why didn't the Enterprise attempt to communicate with the giant one-celled amoeba? Bad cell service.
Yep. Good one. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Mark Zutkov. Thumbs up from Sirach. Chris Garris out in Southeast Texas. What's up? Oh, cool shirt. What'd you think of this one?
So this was actually my first time to watch it, which, for most of TOS it will be. But I actually liked it. I enjoyed this episode. I kind of like Carrie said, I feel like I need to watch it at least. I've watched it twice, and there's still stuff I probably feel like I could, if I did it a third, a few more times, I still might pick up more on it. But the stuff that I, got to my attention right away was, how this was the first time we have a fully manned Vulcan starship. The only other time I can remember us talking about that was in Take Us Out to the Ball Game, DS9 episode.
Holosuite.
Holosuite. I was thinking baseball, but, so that's next time we hear that. But, then what I also liked is how we got connected. This episode connected us back, at least for me, to Strange New Worlds this season when Spock mind melds across space with
Are we losing
Kirk.
sound, or is it just me?
No, I think you can still hear me, right?
We hear him. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool.
We're losing sound. No?
No. Anyway, how Spock and Kirk mind meld in that episode when they're trying to synchronize the the Farragut and the Enterprise, and so and the reason why it connected me is when he felt all 400 of the Vulcans pass away when the ship died, and so that really is intriguing. And I didn't think about it like the Star Wars scene, like Gary said when Obi-Wan detects feels everybody passing away on Alderaan, which is true. I am curious as to why there was no Sulu. Do you think it might have been because it was a bottle show? I don't know why he wasn't there. It wouldn't have made a difference because
he was filming. Chris, he was filming the Green Berets.
Okay, yeah,
John Wayne. Yeah.
Okay, got that. But I did like, and I hope I say this or not, with, when Spock really does kind of put McCoy in this spot and be like, basically saying, maybe if humanity would have cared more about the loss of larger millions of people, maybe we wouldn't have had so many wars like we did. I felt that was, those two have always bantered with each other, but I felt like he really did, try to put him in a spot in a good way. He wasn't trying to be mean or anything like that. He just trying to make us realize maybe we should care more about the masses than just the individuals at times. A couple of times I was a little kind of off guard or whatever. I felt it was a little odd. But again, why Kirk was he would get angry every now and then with Spock he's like, I have no data. Well, that's not a good answer. He's like, well, but I have nothing to tell you. I can't get anything. So, And another aspect, and this is something that makes me wonder, obviously, you had Roddenberry and all of them. It also kind of makes me wonder, if they lifted aspects of this episode as they did throughout the series, because it kind of reminded me a little bit of Booby Trap in TNG. When Enterprise is losing power and it's getting sucked, and so they're losing power here. So it just stuff like that. And so again, it was a good episode. Definitely one that I could probably even rewatch one or two more times to just get, pick up even more on it, because I even felt like it had, where the silence was a couple other TNG episodes. So again, a good episode. I'm glad I watched it, and I definitely am looking forward to even more of TOS after this.
Yeah, I'm glad you watched it too. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Chris Garris out in Southeast Texas. TJ Jackson Bay is in Missouri. What's up? What'd you think of this one?
It would have been super awkward if he hadn't watched it.
Been fun to see if he could make it up though,
I enjoyed rewatching this episode. It's been a while since I've watched it. And I was really, really focused on the back and forth and the relationship between Spock and McCoy, as so many people have brought up. But before I go into, that this is connected to that. And a few people have talked about the scene where Spock spitting bones in his place, and that's right after he felt this kind of mass death event of the Vulcans. But that made me wonder: have we seen anything like that before from the Vulcans? Because Vulcans have had their conflicts too. As we know. And so if there's a natural disaster on Vulcan, or, someone blows something up because they've done all of that stuff, does everybody just double over in pain every time, something happens in a conflict or some kind of disaster, especially over, a great distance of space? So that one kind of had me wondering. And that said, since Vulcan has also had its conflicts, and that's why they had to embrace, logic, who is he to criticize humanity for their conflicts? Because Vulcans have had their conflicts too, and they've risen out of it just as the humans have. So, I found that interaction really just to be, I'm going to jab at you because you're poking at me. And I didn't really feel that he was putting bones in his place, but just that they were having some back and forth. And speaking of their back and forth, that continues on throughout the episode. And there's, kind of, and this is just their relationship. I don't feel that it's antagonistic or that they're not friends. It's how they show their affection for each other. Or maybe they could do it a different way, but that's how they do it. And I thought it really kind of kept the episode together for me, to watch them go back and forth. Even in professional competition, I don't think I've ever seen McCoy, so willing to go, jump on the sword and sacrifice himself for the rest of the ship. But he's also really scientifically curious about what's going on with this creature, and he wants to see it firsthand, even though he might not survive the encounter. And so I found that to really, help me see, his passion for the science. We've seen him solve all kinds of cases and get the crew out of all kinds of situations, but this really highlighted his scientific curiosity and desire to fulfill that, even if it kills him. And I thought it was also, funny when they're fussing back, and the fussing doesn't stop even when Spock is out there, and he's like, "We're trying to rescue you," and it's like, "Thank you, Captain McCoy." I'm just I almost fell out of my chair laughing at that line. Thank you, Captain McCoy. Because it shows that Spock is logical, and I appreciate how Strange New Worlds is kind of backed up in Discovery also, that Spock does explore his feelings and express them. Sometimes we've seen that in TOS too, especially in The Cage, and in some other cases like when he grabs Kirk and says, "Captain, you're alive." This big grin on his face, and then he kind of tamps it down a little bit. So I appreciated that as well. Someone mentioned that the ship did shake a lot. There was one scene that I enjoyed where, after everybody falls out of their chairs, I think it was Kirk and Spock goes and makes sure that everybody, is okay, and puts them back in their chairs. Like, get back over there. I need you to work. I kind of laughed at that a little bit, but also, felt okay. They go through this a lot, and they kind of like, we need to make sure everybody's okay and get on, with the work. Yes, seatbelts would be nice, Melissa. About the creature, I wonder, if this black void, one of the explanations they had for why the Intrepid didn't make it, and the Enterprise, kind of had some time to work with, is they said, okay, the creature was super hungry when it met the Intrepid. And it's not as hungry now, so it's just kind of snacking on us. They didn't say those words. It's kind of the impression that I got. And then it's like carrying them along. It won't let them go. So like, is that black void like the creature's lunchbox? That's what I thought. I thought that was interesting. There were a lot of times where Kirk is asking how long they have.
I don't know what to hit. I have no sound.
You can't hear anything, Walter? Okay.
No.
Well, sorry about that, Walter. We'll figure something out. Please continue, TJ.
No problem. What was that? The creature's lunchbox. I said that part. I lost it. But the ship shaking. I talked about that. Kirk is asking people often, how long they have, or how long the S'Power have, the shields have, and all of that. And I thought, if Sulu were there, Sulu is like the countdown guy, and Kirk would have never had to ask how long, something was, because Sulu's always, hey, we got, this amount of time left. And speaking of Kirk asking people stuff, I thought early in the episode, and somebody mentioned that Spock, didn't have answers, but it seemed like everybody was being super vague to him, almost on purpose, like if they were trying to prank him or something. And I get that he also had some frustration because of the irritability was one of the symptoms of what the creature was doing to them, which is why they had to take a stimulant that was never specified what it was. Kind of doctor goes around injecting people and don't tell him. Kirk even asked what is it, and he's just like, it's a stimulant, which was one of those super vague answers, I thought. But all in all, great episode. I felt like I really appreciated the analogies that they have when Kirk and McCoy are talking and saying we're like antibodies, of the galaxy going around, and making sure that this thing doesn't come and take us all out. So I thought that was an interesting analogy. I got a lot more to say, actually, even though I've already said a lot. That'll be at another time.
I hope it's at Things Left Unsaid. Thank you very much, TJ, Jackson Bay in Missouri. All right, Chuck A., you're the TNG fanatic. However, what do you think of this TOS episode?
I've always liked this episode. I like the dynamic between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. As Melissa mentioned, the other characters had a lot to do.
You can hear
Scott
me. I'm leaving, folks, because I can't hear anything. So I'm going to leave and wish you all a great day and see you next time.
All right, good luck, Walter.
Bye,
Try
Walter.
taking off your headphones. Maybe that's what it is. Can you hear us now? Okay. All right. See you later.
Oh, now I hear you.
Oh, great.
Now I hear you.
Oh,
We did it. See? Good work, Chuck A. All right.
Bye, Walter.
Well, no, he's gonna listen to the end of Chuck A's story, I think, right?
Okay.
Go for it, Chuck. Sorry.
That's all right. Like Belisa mentioned, I like the that we had a Scotty, Uhura, and Chekhov, and Lieutenant Cowell, as Kirk says. It might be a Batman costume reference. I'm not sure. I thought Shatner did a really excellent job in this. He was real dynamic with his lines and his making the decision for McCoy and Spock which one should go. I like how he delivered the message to McCoy saying that to give Spock all the necessary data, but McCoy thought he was going, but he really wasn't. I thought Leonard Nimoy did such a good job with the reference when the Vulcans, he felt the Vulcans got killed on the Intrepid. Leonard Nimoy had some really good episodes with DeForest Kelley, the Spock and McCoy, and this is one of them. I like Spock saying Captain McCoy, and I like McCoy saying, "Shut up, Spock, we're rescuing you." I liked all that. It's been a long time since I've seen the episode, but it's one of my favorite episodes of the original series.
Great stuff as always. Chuck A, aka TNG and TOS fanatic. All right, Chris McGee, what's up? You're the Dark Lord. What did you think of this episode?
Indeed, I am, and so I'm going to be the contrarian here. This is not an episode that I remember all that well from previous viewing, so I guess I didn't find it as memorable as some of the other episodes we've reviewed recently.
Okay. Goodbye.
Take care, Walter.
Bye, Walter.
Bye, Walter.
So yeah, as other episodes we reviewed recently, as Jason said, it's a bottle show, and it has a fairly standard, at least from what I could tell, a fairly standard Monster of the Week kind of format, which may have contributed to being a bit forgettable to me. As such, I can't say it's a particularly standout episode, but neither is it bad. Just what I would consider an average, almost formulaic Star Trek episode. Like Mark, I noticed that a great deal of the music in the episode is borrowed from the Doomsday Machine, but it's appropriate here, so that's fine by me. I do have one opinion on this, and that is that Spock's final personal log from the shuttlecraft, feels a bit unnecessary. Plus, it also spoils the fact that he's still alive. Same with the conversation between them as they put the tractor beam on the shuttle. I think they ought to have left the suspense going as to whether or not he's still alive until he requests to dock with the Enterprise. Then they can all cheer, Spock, you're alive. But that's just something I observed would make a change if I could, And also, I had forgotten that this is the episode that spawned the McCoy-Kirk nod of approval, GIF meme that Carrie mentioned, and other sillier variations on it.
That's pretty good.
And I agree with the observations others have made, such as the Obi-Wan Kenobi coincidence, so I won't repeat them. And I'll save some other thoughts, including another coincidence I noticed, for things left unsaid. My memorable word or phrase of the episode, as someone else mentioned earlier, is Kirk in his Eureka moment, which with the exaggerated line, antibodies.
Nice. Not to be confused with Riker's anybody. All right. All right. Final thoughts. Jake's final take. Walter, Walter's gone. Sirach, do you have any final thoughts on this episode?
I love seeing Walter in and out of this episode, just like he was in and out of the free-for-all. That was special.
Gorgeous. What a.
But no, I really like the original title for this episode. I think it was called Probing Hole. Yeah, Probing Hole. But they changed it. Wow. They did send a lot of probes. You guys, I've never seen so many probes sent in a single episode. It's like, how many probes are we going to do?
Stimulants.
Again, we need a lot of stimulants for these probes. The order of the credits. Also noticed that there's been a big change over the years, and I wonder when the change occurred, because when I watched this episode, it starts right off with written by, goes right to the director's name. And nowadays you have the opening credits, with every actor's name first, the guest stars, then it goes into the producers, and then eventually the director of the episode will be the last credit. They have stayed consistent with the last credit essentially being the director before you actually see the show itself. But there is a change in credits, and I wonder why and when those changes took place and for what reason. Maybe Screen Actors Guild, maybe actors wanted to get noticed more, maybe they felt that the end of the credits they weren't getting as much recognition. But I just was curious about that. I thought it was bad for Spock to guilt trip McCoy right there, like, you should have wished me luck, because had Spock died, he would have to live with that kind of in the back of his head. It's a guilt trip, and he's placing a little guilt trip on him, and not necessarily a thing that I would think as a Vulcan trait. that sounds like more of a human character to try to guilt trip somebody into something. So there's that. Yes, I love Dr. McCoy's line because I agreed with him, and he said, "I recommend survival. Let's get out of here." So
Yes.
that was like, I was like, yeah, we don't have to investigate everything. Let's kind of like get away from some stuff. But obviously, this would have consumed the universe if it got a chance to multiply or something like that. Let's see, what else do we get here? Yeah, when he said, "Shut up, Spock, we're rescuing you," I thought of Red Fox saying, "You big dummy." All he needed to do was add "big dummy" on the end of that
Big
sentence,
dummy.
and it would have worked for me. I was pretty good with that. Yeah, this episode, it had a lot of good moments in there. I, in my own headcanon, think that the stimulant they were taking was Ketracel White.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got to be careful when you're dealing with that stuff. So that's all I got for you.
All right. And that's all we have for all of you at home. So thank you to Chris McGee, Chuck A., TJ, Jackson Bay out, Missouri, Chris Garris, Mark Zutkoff, Carrie Schwent, who's saying crazy stuff in our Zoom chat right now, by the way, Jason M. Oken, Melissa Longo, for myself, Sirach, Melissa, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, and Walter Koenig. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time. He's a very busy guy on The Seventh Rule.